who is the brain? Who takes the decisions to say that it's going to be the World Trade Center now, it's going to be the Pakistani elections now, or it's going to be any third country now? And it's very important for us as a world community to unveil the central brain behind these people. We keep hearing there's no central brain, that there are different cells that keep working. But I don't buy that. I don't believe that the World Trade Center and I can be picked out by the same individual if there isn't a mastermind.
The Prime Minister.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much indeed for being here. And for giving us a lift yesterday. We've got a chair on it.
You want me to sit on that?
Yes, please, over there.
I wouldn't mind a glass of water before we begin. If there's anybody around who'll give me. Jabbar, मेरा handbag जरा ले आना tissue paper.
We're rolling.
अभी आप फोटो नहीं लेना, इनको डिस्टर्ब करेंगे.
Prime Minister, are there any really true comparisons between the Islamic fundamentalist trends in Pakistan and the situation in a country like Algeria?
No, the situation is very different. There are some similarities, but otherwise it's very different. The difference is that Algeria can't hold an election without the extremists winning. Whereas in Pakistan, we've had 3 elections since 1988, and the extremists keep losing. So the extremists have no popular backing within this country. In fact, many Pakistanis are outraged by the politics of the extremists, the poison that they spread, the hatred that they spread. In Karachi, when different Shia or Sunni mosques were attacked by these extremists, the people came out and shouted Shia-Sunni unity. So the people are against what these militants and extremists are doing. But in Pakistan, the problem is that since this was the frontline state against communism, we do have a lot of cells that receive training for the Afghan war. We still have 2 million Afghan refugees on our soil. We have a lot of schools that were set up at that time, which turned out holy warriors to go fight a war. Because there is instability in Afghanistan, the arms continues to come. But basically, within Pakistan, we didn't have problem with militancy or extremism till we signed the extradition treaty with Egypt. So if my government had turned a blind eye to what the militants were doing, they would have considered Pakistan a safe haven and not started their militant activities here. Militancy is a totally new factor, and the Indian foreign involvement is a new factor. We did have ethnic groups in parts of Karachi. Karachi is a city of 12 million. In a small part of Karachi, we did have ethnic groups battling for turf, just as mafias do for extortion and gambling and such social ills. But the militants did not take on Pakistan till the extradition treaty with Egypt and the raids to arrest those people who were suspects in the assassination of President Sadat. Then we had the extradition of Ramzi Youssef. And once we had the extradition of Ramzi Youssef, that really was like a red rag to the militants. The arrest of Ramzi Youssef, perhaps we opened too many fronts because we were working against the drug barons. So the arrest of Ramzi Youssef happened against the background of one of the largest drug haul, the largest, not one, the largest drug haul in the history of Pakistan. So we got the militants and we got the drug people suddenly spending money, powerful interests who felt threatened.
To what extent are particular political groupings with a strong religious base, to what extent are they responsible for some of that violence in this country?
The religious militants were not responsible for terror in certain parts of Karachi. These were ethnic groups that did it. The religious groups, I mean, for instance, when we talk about the death of the 2 American diplomats, we have still to identify whether it is part of the reaction for the Ramzi extradition or whether it is part of the ethnic battling of turfs. Because usually in the ethnic battling of turfs, foreigners are not targeted. So this is what the investigation has to show. But what has been amazing is that our police recently have received a lead that Ramzi Youssef arrived in Karachi in the run-up to the October 1993 election with a mission to assassinate me. And he and his colleagues came in a car towards my house, this is the Bilawal house, with explosives. But that one of the explosives went off, wounding Ramzi, and he was taken to a local Karachi doctor for treatment. We are now going to ask, I think we've asked the Americans that they have to investigate and interrogate Ramzi for this assassination bid on me, and if need be, we'll send our own police officials as to who ordered him. But it's very clear that even before I became Prime Minister, extremists and militants feared that Pakistan would no longer be a safe haven for them, and they tried to prevent my party coming to power or prevent me from coming to power with this attack. But I have been absolutely amazed when the authorities told me that he was here, because I'd never heard of Ramzi. And when we extradited him, we had no idea that he had ever been in Pakistan on a mission to assassinate the then leader of opposition and now Prime Minister of the country. And it made us wonder that who is the brain? Who takes the decisions to say that it's going to be the World Trade Center now, it's going to be the Pakistani elections now, or it's going to be any third country now? And it's very important for us as a world community to unveil the central brain behind these people. We keep hearing there's no central brain, that there are different cells that keep working. But I don't buy that. I don't believe that the World Trade Center and I can be picked out by the same individual if there isn't a mastermind.
What are the arguments for and against repealing the blasphemy laws in this country?
Well, I think the blasphemy, first of all, I'd like to say that Pakistan is largely a Muslim country. And when people come to our country, we expect them to respect our laws and to respect the sentiments of our people and not to commit blasphemy. The problem that we had with the blasphemy law was that it was being used as misused as a vendetta against minorities. And that is why we were seeking to amend the blasphemy law so that any false accusation would be punishable with the same sentence as an actual act of blasphemy to discourage its use as a vendetta. However, now with the Lahore High Court's historic judgment, I think that they have blunted the instrument, and it will be very difficult for zealots to try and misuse it to persecute the minorities. I'm still in favor of an amendment to the blasphemy law, and I would very much like the leader of the opposition to join hands with me to get this amended. And the amendment that we are seeking is primarily the same sentence for somebody who makes a false accusation to deter zealots from doing so.
You mentioned the power of the drugs barons, or the former power. Statistics say that as much as 80% of the heroin in Europe may come from Pakistan. How are you able to use your own resources and the resources that come from abroad to try to stop that?
The drugs don't come, 80% of the drugs to Europe don't come from Pakistan. They come from Afghanistan. But they're routed through Iran, India, and Pakistan. And I think it's very important for the world to realize that this is a common problem and that it was caused because we together, Pakistan was the frontline state against communism, and the West joined hands with Pakistan to fight communism. And then when communism was defeated, everybody packed their bags and left. But we were left holding the holy warriors. We were left with these militant schools. We were left with 2 million Afghan refugees who can't go back because they're fighting. And we were also left with these narco barons who had become very powerful and who, along with the arms trade, also indulge in this trade to protect their interests. So we really need support, intelligence support, moral support, political support in trying to tackle this problem. When you have 2 million refugees and schools amongst them, if we shut the schools, where will all those people go? They'll spread out throughout my country, trying to co-opt subversion and harm the lives of Pakistanis. We can't afford that. Close the border with Afghanistan. The Soviets couldn't do it when they were in Afghanistan. The borders are so porous. And if I send 100,000 or 150,000 troops to close the borders, my defense budget will shoot up. And then what can I spend on social resources if I do that? So I really think we must come together in this battle. President Rabbani was recently here, and I really said to him, I said, Mr. Rabbani, please have a political settlement. I said, you people keep blaming outsiders. You keep saying Pakistan is supporting the Taliban. So that's not true. The Taliban are all Afghans. I said, you left all these Afghans on Pakistan's territory. You left them in all these schools. And if they want to go back to Afghanistan, I can't stop them because they're Afghans. I can stop them coming back to Pakistan, but I can't stop them returning to their own country. The problem with Afghanistan is none of these leaders have a national stature. So, but despite the fact that none of these leaders represent the whole cake, they want to eat the whole cake. And the result is fighting. And the result is that the people of Afghanistan are suffering. We in Pakistan are backing the UN Secretary General's efforts for a settlement. And since I've become Prime Minister, I've clearly directed no meddling in Afghanistan. And this is a decision which in all aspects of the corridors of power, there's total consensus that no meddling. We want a stable Afghanistan, irrespective of who's there. Traditionally, Kabul has always been governed, who has Kabul runs the country, although they don't have support. So the problem is that the government in Kabul doesn't have support outside Kabul. And the people outside Kabul, they don't have support in Kabul. Now, that means come to an agreement. That doesn't mean fight each other and make your people suffer.
Looking ahead now, what is your government's plan to restore perhaps the sort of shaky confidence that the world has had in your country's stability because of recent events? What about the future?
Pakistan's a very stable country. Our problems are related to one city, Karachi. And within that one city, Karachi, they're relegated to parts of that big, huge, sprawling city. In the month when the American diplomats were killed, hydrocracker projects, groundbreaking, took place in which $500 million have been invested. So ironically, parts of Karachi are very safe, while certain parts are not safe. We are now having to start from scratch. As Prime Minister, I find that the local police stations have no intelligence, and they're looking in the dark. And sometimes I have to turn to my political supporters and say who are the gun-toting people, and then tell the police, could you investigate whether this is correct information or wrong information. Number two, the police force is very small. It was 8,000 when I last became Prime Minister. And we've raised that now to 20,000. But in a city of 12 million, 20,000 is a drop in the ocean. The police are overstretched and overtired. Our laws are difficult. When 4 people were killed, the family nominated the killers. When the police arrested the killers, the family came and said, sorry, we won't give evidence. The result was that the police can't prosecute killers. So we have to look at how to upgrade the administration. Secondly, we have to look to see what we can do about laws to convict people who engage in acts of terrorism. And thirdly, during my predecessor's time, within the police force, 5,000 people were recruited by a political party. And in most of the acts of violence, it's their members who've been caught. So when you have people who are indulging in acts of violence, recruiting a police force, if we throw those policemen out, then they'll go and join the gangs more openly. And if we keep them in, they don't have the will to fight the terrorists. So it's a big problem, but we can tackle it. But we need patience, and we need time, and we need perseverance. Because in a fight against terrorism, one must never compromise with those who indulge in acts of crime. And you have to go after them again and again and again, because they keep going underground and then resurfacing. So one of the complaints was that there was too much political interference in the police postings and transfers. We stopped that. The second complaint was that even in cases of murder, the judiciary was letting people out on bail when, according to the laws, they're not supposed to be out on bail. So we've talked to the Chief Justice on this action. The third is to see what stronger laws can be enacted. And the fourth is that the prosecution must be very good, because nobody gets punished. But since I become Prime Minister, out of the cases that have been, 180 cases were prosecuted in Karachi, of which 140 resulted in convictions and 40 resulted in acquittals. So I think that through the slow process, we have to prove that the rule of law works. We've got to make people scared of the law. They're no longer scared of the law. In fact, in a funny way, the law was scared of them. The police were scared that they're going to come and kill our families when we are on duty. The judges were scared that if we give a sentence against them, they're going to come and kill our families. So it was a very ironical situation, but we're reversing that tide. And I think given time, we're going to be able to eliminate terrorism. The situation is complicated because we've got problems with India, and I think they're fishing in troubled waters. 5 people were indulging in sniper firing. There was an encounter with the police. 2 died, 3 were arrested, and those 3 had been trained in India. So you see, we have the forces of ethnicity here, we have the Indian hand, and we also have, as Karachi is the port city, the drug barons with their influence to get their drug trade out. Added to this is the extradition of Ramsey, where the militants now feel that they've got to join hands with the ethnic groups or with the drug barons in trying to destabilize the government, drive away the foreign investment. They don't want the foreign investment coming here because basically all these forces of ethnicity, extremism, fanaticism, narcotics, none of them want Pakistan as a modern, moderate Muslim nation. And so they want Pakistan to be destabilized, they want the foreign investment to go. But luckily, this government has the support of the people of Pakistan. And the people of Pakistan don't support the forces of extremism. And that's why I'm confident that we're going to win this battle.
If I have time for one last question, away from these negative things, it's your second administration. What do you consider your main achievements in the economic and in the social spheres since '93, since your re-election?
Well, there have been many achievements in the energy sector and the economic sector. Our budget deficit has come down from 8% to 6% last year and is expected to come down further. Our foreign exchange reserves were $300 million, covering 2 weeks' imports. Now they've gone up to $3 billion, between $2.5 to $3 billion. Our growth rate has gone up. But you know, the satisfaction that I get is not so much from the economic figures or the energy figures. I get more personal satisfaction about what we're doing, for instance, in polio. Pakistan was amongst 1 in 5 children in Pakistan were afflicted from polio. And this is something that can be eliminated in 5 years because, you know, infants under 5, if you get them all inoculated, then that's it, it's out of the country. So we had a 97% success rate in our first year, and we're launching the second anti-polio campaign for the second year. And that gives me real satisfaction to know that mothers won't be losing their children to polio. Goiter and malnutrition is caused by a lack of iodine. It takes very little money to iodize salt, but nobody had iodized salt. So the program to put iodine in salt is something that you start and you can see it happen, and it gives one a great deal of satisfaction. Or the fact that there were 80,000 villages in Pakistan that didn't have electricity and only 250 that were being electrified. That meant 325 years, 3 centuries to electrify and bring light to villages. But we've taken a World Bank loan, and now we are electrifying 6,000 to 7,000 villages a year. And I hope in about 10 years' time, every single village in Pakistan will be electrified. Then there's the rural telecommunications program. We've got a soft loan from France. We're planning to put in rural telecommunications. Population planning, training 100,000 women as lady health workers to bring down the population rate. These are the areas that give me, as a woman and as a mother and as a prime minister, special satisfaction. Although I spend a lot of my time on the energy sector, which has been very successful. We've got more than $6 billion worth of foreign investment coming in the energy sector alone. We've got a total of $12 billion investment in 15 months, as opposed to $2 billion in the last 20 years in the private sector field. So these are all satisfying matters, but I find that people aren't really interested in these, in polio or AIDS awareness or iodized salt. Somehow people are more interested in scandal and in conflict and in any horror story as such. But life has part good, part bad, and my own personal satisfaction that really comes is from the social field.
Prime Minister, thank you very much.